Thank you very much. Honorable members, we are just meeting today as scheduled for meeting of the Portfolio Committee on Provincial Treasury, which is dated the 10th of October. I start seeing the cut and paste October 2025, not 2024. Our time was supposed to be 9:15, which I think I must also talk about it, that in future, Mr. Tamaha, make sure that you give enough space in between our briefing as well as the entire official meeting. Because I hope Honorable MEC and his team has been waiting for a long time, because the time was supposed to be 9:15. Now we were almost an hour or more late, and we must correct that one. That's where we must start correcting. And then the venue is correct. It's at Parliamentary Village. Can I take this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen and honorable members, to open this meeting officially and welcome everyone in this sitting, including the MEC and your entourage. You are all welcome, and the HOD, Mr. Pratt. You are really welcome for this important session for the Portfolio Committee. And with that, I would like to say, let's go straight to our items, which is item number 1. I've done the opening and as well as the welcome, as I said before. Item number 2, honorable members, I think I'm pleased that the departments, the departments that we meet, we normally find either Mabogo or Bafana. MEC, your team is almost proportional, almost balanced. Even if you're still striving to get your 50-50 or 50 and more for females, at least. But we can see 7 colors. At least it's promising that we're adhering to our policies as the government. I'm pleased about that one. Let's start with the introduction from our side. I don't know if we can't claim that we know each other. We have to do it, and I'll start with ourselves. My far right, Honorable Mato.
My name is LJ Mato, member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. And good morning to the MEC and the team. I'm Delima Jomani, member of the committee.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to yourselves and honorable members. Greetings also to MEC and the team. My name is Bella Kupa Mabuza, and I'm the member of this Portfolio Committee. Thank you.
Good day, Honourable MEC and Team Treasury. My name is Jacques Smaller. I'm a member of this Portfolio Committee.
Oh, yeah. You can see, Chairperson, I'm getting confused because now there's a roving mic. I'm waiting for that roving mic. Thank you very much. My name is Maseka Pied, the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee in Treasury, Limpopo Legislature. I think from our side, we can go to our demonstrators to do the introduction. From our side, then we'll come to you, MEC.
Thank you, Chairperson, members of the Portfolio Committee, the Honorable MEC Mahwai, and the senior management of the department, my colleagues as well. My name is Tamara Kaiser. I'm the committee coordinator. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning, MEC and your entourage. My name is Hlangana Nyathela from Research. Thank you.
Come again? Proper introductions.
Thank you, Honorable. It's just unfortunate I can't introduce myself as somebody else has to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you are proper. Normally people will introduce themselves. I'm Mr. Pierre. You cannot say I'm Mr. Pierre. They will say I'm Pierre. You will call me Mr. Pierre. Anyhow, the same with Dr. Nyathela Tlanganani, just next to me is our researcher. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Motlala, the legal advisor.
To you, MEC.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. My name is Khabo Mawai, MEC for Finance.
Good morning, Honourable Chair, honourable members, MEC. My name is Gavin Pratt, Head of Provincial Treasury.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee, MEC and colleagues. My name is George Ramseteri. I'm the acting CFO.
Morning, honorable members, Chairperson, MEC, and my colleagues. I'm Kendi Hlungwani from Financial Systems Treasury.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members. My name is Mpoye Ngoveni. I'm from Infrastructure Management in Provincial Treasury.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable in the House. I am Florence Mabunda, responsible for assets and liabilities, standing in for assets, liabilities and supply chain management branch. Thank you. From Provincial Treasury.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members, MEC, HOD and colleagues. My name is Ndibora Munchi from Information Management in the Department of Limpopo Provincial Treasury. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members, MEC, HOD and colleagues. My name is Enitima, Municipal Finance and Governance. Thanks.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable MEC. All protocols observed. I'm Masikwameng RC from the Provincial Treasury, responsible for budget and public finance management.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Sidwell Sibanda, Limpopo Provincial Treasurer.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, honorable members, honorable MEC, HOD and colleagues. My name is Stephen Machabele from Corporate Services.
Morning, Chair, honorable members, MEC and HOD and colleagues. My name is Maratum Patlele, Office of the CFO, Internal Control and Compliance.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. Good morning, honorable members, HOD, honorable MEC. My name is Yonine Kavambe from Shared Internal Audit Services.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Good morning, MEC, HOD. My name is Puti Matla from Strategic Management.
Good morning, Chair, honorable members, MEC, and HOD and colleagues. I'm Hava Teyop from Accounting Services.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Jacob Mwabelo, attached to the MEC's office, PLO.
Thank you very much, honorable members and members. I don't know if it's deliberate that Nolohene and your team are not introducing themselves, or you just say you're always there. You are known. Where's the mic? Here's the mic here.
Good morning. I'm Mawala Neshitsebe, Communication Services.
Tobel, Vincent Arapepele, Communications, Limpopo Legislature.
Tobela, Madam Koban from Fertilizer.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members, MEC and the team. My name is James. I'm from IT Legislature. Thank you.
You said your name is?
James Makotla.
Oh yeah, now it's complete. Thank you very much. Thanks for knowing each other. I think now we'll call ourselves by our surnames and names, unlike when you call each other by our shapes, you see. Now we can address each other correctly. We're on item number 3, attendance and apologies. I'll check from our side to Mr. Tama. Any apologies?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. We have got 2 apologies this morning. The first one is from the Honorable Dr. Selani. The second one is from the Honorable Member Rahwale. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. I thought you also registered the presence of Honorable Mukaba and Honorable Ngobeni, who have just, Mukaba they will be joining us soon, but they are with us. They've already assigned for the attendance register for the day. Only from yourself, MEC.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you very much. All my DDGs are attending a HOD induction program where we're training the new HODs that have been appointed, so we apologize for the HODs, and our CFO is on leave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I will hold on for the congratulations, MEC. Immediately at the end of the session, maybe we'll congratulate you. But for now, I'll do it internally. I'll externalize when time comes. Can we just move on straight to item number 5? Item number 4, honorable members, on the confirmation of the agenda. We agreed that we would move with the agenda as presented before us today for this sitting. Honorable members. Honorable Mato. Thank you. And second, Honorable Machuman. Thank you. Agenda is adopted as it is. Can we move straight to Honorable Mr. Tama on the minutes? I think, honorable members, the minutes are flagged on the screen. We can go over the minutes so that we can see if we... honorable member? Okay. I understand it was at the back of my mind, but I was afraid to start it. And thank you very much for assisting the session. I could see the loneliness from my left-hand side that Omisi and his team were getting lonely because they were not part of that. Let's go straight to item number 5, briefing by the Provincial Treasury on number 16.1, MEC on the departmental scope resolutions and portfolio committee on provincial treasury resolutions. And 6.2 will be the 2024-25 financial year annual performance report. And finally, it will be on the 2025-26 financial year first quarter performance report. And we'll go straight to the questions and comments and inputs by the committee later. Let's start with the first one, 6.1, MEC.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm going to be deferring to the HOD to do so, but I just want to give some few remarks which will then be elaborated upon by the HOD. We are pleased to come to present to the Honorable Committee for the reports as outlined there, but just to highlight few things, that it be noted that the department has retained its clean audit for the 2024-25, and if you look at the 8 years before that, it has been consistently so, except for 22-23, when then it regressed from clean to unqualified. And one of the highlights for us is that for the first time in its history, the province has, all the departments have received unqualified audit opinions. 5 of them with no findings, otherwise known as clean audit. I always tell them that I don't like the word clean audit. All what it means is that there are no findings. And the other 5 with some findings. This is historical as far as we are aware, and without laying claim as a department, but we have made sure that we technically oversee everything to ensure, as financial statements have to come through us for review in any case. So the only regression that was recorded, of which we don't have much control over, was with regard to the legislature, which lost its clean audit report to an unqualified report. We also, however, concerned with the regression in the audit outcomes of the public entities, RAL and GNT, which regressed from unqualified to qualified. And on the other hand, the Gambling Board lost its clean audit to an unqualified report, while Leader remained qualified on the other side, and Limpopo Tourism, therefore, was the only entity that retained its clean audit. So, Honorable Chair, this is by no means trying to praise ourselves or to do, but just to recognize that, you know, clean governance or good governance is a precondition for service delivery. There are people who say there's disconnect. I argue against that, because the disconnect will not be there. The clean audit is a way to say we can account clearly that our books are right, but then we need to be assessed also on the service delivery. But it be noted, of course, that as from the last 3 years, the Auditor General also expressed his opinion on predetermined objectives, on performance. So the clean audit will mean, even on performance, that is being checked, it is like that. So another area that I want to highlight, of course, is our ability to collect revenue. You know, it is pleasing to note that we have collected 167.5 million over the target. 167 million over the what was targeted. And then, well, the other aspect of the increase in revenue is not a nice one. We acknowledge it is the revenue we generate from interest. And if we generate it from interest for safekeeping, it means we want to speak about it so that you don't have to worry about it. We ourselves are worried. But if we're not prudent enough, it could have gone other way, and which is what normally happens. But we are so prudent as to ensure that we keep the finances of the province as much as we can, to the extent that we do generate a good revenue to the tune of 122 million. I must indicate we are one of the provinces that does not collect more revenue. Our neighbor here, Mpumalanga, right? is collecting on motor vehicle licenses. We want to check what is it? Is it our people registering their vehicles in Gauteng? Are we more closer to Gauteng than Mpumalanga? But I believe Moloto Road, Mhlanga and all those areas and are close to Gauteng better than Belabela and Route. I don't know. Maybe we don't have many cars, but that's an issue. So regarding performance, you'll notice as we go there that as a department we achieved all our planned targets for the 2024-25 financial year. And for the first quarter, we acknowledge that we did not achieve 3 of our planned targets. The reasons will be explained by the HOD and what intervention will be made. With regard to irregular expenditure, we do acknowledge that the condonation aspect is still a challenge as departments and entities assessments and investigations are taking time and institutions submitted requests for condonation that are not in, or sometimes not in compliance. For them to be in compliance, if you remember, we don't just condone. The departments has to do assessments where possible, include investigations until they are satisfied that the irregular expenditure is indeed condonable. It is outside of our control. We only deal with the end product of their work. When it takes them too long to do, there is nothing we can do. I'm just giving a snapshot of why in this area we are not doing well. So the province has remained within the prescribed section 29 of the PFMA budget spending limitation of 45% for the period June. As you know, this year we have had problems with budget passing. It was passed towards the end, and we're reporting that we still remain within the norm. In most cases, you'll find that even before the budget is passed by the legislature, people may have gone over the limitation. So, in short, I was trying to summarize. The details will come, and I believe the HOD will try to be as brief as possible, not repeat, of course, but to elaborate on the matters. But we want to thank the committee because the performance, our performance is determined by the extent in which you conduct your oversight on us. If it was not for your robust oversight, we would not have had any motivation to do better. So we want to acknowledge and indeed acknowledge your role. We are a value chain, starting from you overseeing and us implementing. May I then defer to the HOD to take us through the first report. Thank you.
Thank you, MEC. Good morning again, Chair. Gavin Pratt, HOD Treasury. Chair, I'll try and take us through the scope resolutions. On the next page is just, we've got one resolution still from 2017-18, which relates to the legal case, and we'll talk to that. And then the resolutions that were taken by the committee in other years, we had clean audits. So it was more about supporting departments, and that will be part of our transversal report to SCOPA with Office of the Premier. So we're just talking to votes 5 issues that have been raised through the SCOPA committee and legislature house resolutions. So I think MEC's touched on this, I won't go through it, but yeah, we got that unqualified in 22-23, and that's when we then got resolutions to deal with, and we'll report on those as we speak now, which really related to the CETA procurement, where we bought laptops from a Joburg supplier instead of let me say Gauteng supplier instead of Limpopo supplier, but that's been dealt with. If we can move to the next slide. So this is just a snapshot of our scope resolutions going back to 2014-15, where all of them have been resolved except the 2017-18, which is the litigation matter. And then in 22-23, we had 4 resolutions. 2 have been resolved, 2 are still outstanding, and they relate to tabling the House resolutions into the House. And that's a resolution that's been taken that we need to provide, I think it's 6 monthly reports now. and the one report is due as we speak, and we'll certainly comply with that through the Leader of Government Business, and we're also then sharing with this committee as part of those resolutions. So, Chair, if I can just quickly go then to the resolutions. The first one was in the previous years also we failed to report, but that's resolved. Then the next one is the exceptional litigation, which relates to our accounting system that we procured way back, I think in 2008, and we then took the matter to court where some of the systems or the modules were not being used by government, and the supplier wanted us to pay for them. This has gone through various court processes, and it's now at the Supreme Court of Appeal, but we're still awaiting for the court date, so we cannot resolve this, and we'll wait for that court date and report back to the committee and to the legislature accordingly. Then we had a small irregular expenditure in 2017-18, which has been resolved and has been condoned. Then the 3D entities was also around Leader and Gal, trying to take them out of the fiscus. That resolution we did implement where we stopped financing them except for the, can I say, operational costs for their non-business operations, the old Lipsa and Till. And in Gal, we had to finance them. They don't have sufficient revenue. But that we've basically then started weaning them off, and we've then implemented this resolution accordingly. And it's now back with the House for further resolutions where we need to report progress on the implementation. The next resolution was around the VBS saga that went on. Those were investigated, people were charged. I know mayors were also removed from office. And in our view, Chair, we believe that there's not much more we can do on this as the Treasury. It's now with the law enforcement agencies and the NPA, and they are busy prosecuting people as time goes by and cases are then appearing in the court. So our report is still there, but we believe that there's not much more we can do as a provincial treasury on that matter. Then in 22-23, this is a year that we regressed, where we, again, the tabling issue, and it's something we need to strengthen within our own administration, Chair, and we'll also speak to the Leader of Government Business, how we can make sure that these reports from all our departments, I think we've all had the same finding, that we don't come back and report to the House, and we'll certainly put that in place as we go forward now. Then the SITA issue was where we bought some items from a supplier on the SITA database who was our supplier in the previous year, but in the current year when we bought these things was a Gauteng supplier and not a Limpopo supplier. We can also report to the committee that we actually got the items cheaper from the Gauteng supplier delivered to us than procuring it from the Limpopo supplier. But we did violate the SITA regulation, and that was then taken for condonement, and the item has been condoned. Then the other issue was around the accelerated pay progression, where we paid out 3.186 million on the DPSA accelerated pay progression, where it allowed you to pay 2 notches for people that scored 5s, and an additional notch where people scored 4. The challenge was how to identify those people, because if you have more than the required number, who do you not reward and who do you reward? There was also a requirement in that particular policy from DPSA that as long as you stay within the 2%, you can award, which we then did. But AG found that to be irregular, in that we didn't limit the numbers, and we couldn't determine how to limit those numbers. We went to DPSA, we went to court, we went to the bargaining council because the court said it's a dispute that must go to bargaining council. Bargaining Council said they were not part of that decision, they couldn't help us. Eventually, we then met with AG to say we don't have a resolution how to get this thing resolved, and it was not only ourselves, I think it was Officer Premier Coxter led it, that had similar issues, and AG then agreed that we won't ultimately be able to resolve this thing, and that we then take it for condonation, and through that process we then removed it from our irregular expenditure in the 22-23 financial year. So that matter has been addressed. The concern really was, why did we not deal with it? And Chair, I think it was all this process that we had to follow to try and get clarity from the policy owner why and how we can deal with this particular item. We went to court, that took a long time. Then we referred to Bargaining Council, that took time, and then we referred back to the DPSA, and ultimately we didn't have an answer, and then we agreed to take it through the condonation process with the consent of AG, and we've now closed that matter. Then on the procurement issue, same as I've reported, we did deviate from the requirement, but we ultimately then took that through to condonation. There was no financial loss in that particular procurement that we had. Then, comes back to the tabling of our reports, where even in the recent resolutions that we should have tabled by the 31st of August, but we will be tabling now as soon as we've gone through the process. It's now been quality checked by the Scopa Secretariat and our team at Treasury, so that we can then submit those reports to the legislature. So, Chair, those are the two resolutions really that were made on our vote 5, and obviously the reporting to the legislature, which we need to tidy up and make sure we comply to that. With your permission, Chair, can I move to the next? Thanks very much. Chair, the next looks at our House resolutions. What we've done is we've tried to look at all the resolutions that come from the House, from the committee, and just to give progress on those resolutions, and we'll keep tracking these as we move forward, and with your Secretariat agree when they're resolved or not resolved, or what additional information needs to come to the committee. The first one was around fully implementing the mitigation measure identified in the provincial risk profile. Chair, I can report here that we've certainly seen quite good progress now, where we've identified champions in each cluster to report through the clusters to EXCO on the provincial risk profile. And we've seen the mitigations now starting to take shape, but there is still fairly, can I say, moderate to high risks in those areas, particularly around unemployment, poverty. The health burden, I think, has been managed well. So when we look at our 10 risks, we've certainly seen the risks being mitigated, but we still need to make sure that we get that proper alignment between our departmental and cluster committees to the provincial risk profile. And we will keep updating you on that risk profile as we move along. The next was to finalize the provincial regular expenditure condonement request in line with the regular expenditure developed by National Treasury. And Chair, I think as MEC touched on that, we do meet quarterly all the applications that come. We've got a team in our governance monitoring and compliance unit who also sits with the Scopa teams to look at the quality of what we get in before it comes to a committee. And we find a lot of the submissions are non-compliant to the framework, and then we have to return them back. But the colleagues cannot return it. It comes to the committee. We then assess it and then agree and write formal letters to the departments identifying their shortcomings. And a lot of the shortcomings come to consequence management, where they've not taken consequence management, and also where they've not fully complied to the framework in terms of the corrective actions that need to be put in place and the preventative measures to prevent that happening going forward. So we do find some that are just submitting for, can almost say, compliance sake, but we do quite a thorough check on those before we condone. And as MEC said, we're really dependent on them. But I think, Chair, we've taken a different view now in that we need to go and help. We can't just sit there and wait and keep getting these submissions that don't meet the requirements. So the team is also now playing almost a consulting role to go to departments and help them put together their report to the committee so that we don't send these submissions backwards and forwards and we try and shortcut the process. So hopefully that will help. The big one that we have a challenge with is RAL at the moment, where these are very old cases and they just need to prove impracticability. A lot of the documents are not there, they've disappeared, and there is a process to then deal with that in the framework, but we find that that's not been dealt with properly and we are engaging with them to help them submit a better document for us then to consider. So that the irregular expenditure is not dropping despite us condoning quite substantial amounts. Because we don't condone those old things, the irregular just continues and it's just growing as we go until we can condone. So we need to close those old irregular expenditures which we're working on. As I say, we're taking a different role now to try and help the departments meet the compliance requirements. Then in filling 100% of our vacancy posts, Chair, I think there also we had 121 posts that were approved for 24-25, 119 of those were filled. 2 posts were not filled. One was where the entry requirements could not be identified for the one post, and the other one was in a dispute. And we can report that the one was re-advertised and the dispute was resolved. So we have dealt with all the posts in that financial year. And as we speak now in the 24-25, I think our vacancy rate was just on 7%. You will recall we were in the higher 30% before, but we certainly still have vacancies that we have funded now, and we're dealing with those as we move forward. Then in 23-24, the issue here that you had on our annual performance report was around the historical irregular expenditure pertaining to Section 100. So as far as we know, there's no more Section 100 irregular expenditures outstanding. We have condoned all those that have come, and we will just make a follow-up, but as far as we know, we've dealt with all of those in education and public works, where we've now closed those off and condoned those expenditures. Then also in 23-24 was around the RWAPs, where the committee felt that we must deregister employees who have got companies registered on the CRPC, and that we must also look at having one payroll to assist in our municipalities. So we can report that we have done analysis through the CSD with National Treasury, and we have identified 20 officials who've actually done work with our departments amounting to 52.4 million. Those departments have been written letters by ourselves, and we've also written to the DG to ensure that consequences do happen here. In that it's very clear that it's illegal for a state official to do business with government. The challenge we have in the resolution, Chair, is the deregistration on the CRPC. That's not our competency. Our role is to make sure you're not on the CSD. We do have people who have got their houses, for example, or some properties in a company, not doing business, and also not doing business with the state. So there are some justifications. Some people have applied for RWAPs, they've been given permission, so to just go and deregister those will not be in our scope, but we certainly got control on the CSD. And National Treasury is now removing everyone who's got a personal number, ID number linked to a personal number from the CSD, so that you cannot trade with the state. The limitation that we do have, and as the committee reported, is in our municipalities and our public entities, where they're not on the same personal system. And to get that updated data is still a challenge nationally, as this must be done nationally on the CSD system. To prohibit our local government colleagues and our entities from doing business with the state, But they are working on that to see how we can make sure that they don't appear on our CSD. As any procurement, you need to be on the CSD, and we'll certainly also report back on that. So we will await the reports from these 20 officials or those departments. I think education and health are the major culprits. We do have a report which we can share, the letter that we sent to DG. Then the next item, number 3, was that we should report on a quarterly basis about unwanted expenditure. So yeah, also we prepare this report quarterly. As we submit our RYM, we'll also submit now the irregular expenditure report to the committee. We do have one ready that we can make available to the Secretariat, but just to share that as at the end of June, we still had an accumulated amount of 10.897 billion as irregular expenditure, where departments made up 4.284 billion and entities 6.614 billion, mainly RAL, and in our departments, it's Coxter, where AG recently found the irregularity on their database, and we are dealing with them on that particular process on appointment of contractors. In fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we had 247.2 million, still not dealt with. In the departments, amounting to 171.8 million, and in our entities, 75.3 million, and the report is available, which we'll share with the Secretariat for the committee. And as we submit our quarterly RYM report, we'll also include this report for the committee to take note. And as I say, we're trying to now work with those departments to really get rid of these irregularities, but in compliance with the framework that mandates us to do it. Then the fourth item was around ensuring the recommendations of our forensic investigative reports are satisfactorily drafted and implementable. So we can report here that all the forensic reports that are commissioned by ourselves, we do meet with the forensic teams before they finalize the report. We do give inputs into the reports, and hopefully that is then quality resolutions. But if the committee is aware of any that have got challenges, we are willing to look at those and engage with the relevant forensics. But from we sit in, we have written letters to all our MECs and HODs again to give us updates on the implementation of those resolutions. But no one, GNT did raise some concern around the pension fund one, where they found it not to be implementable, but it just needed further investigation. I don't think the resolution itself was a problem. It was that you needed to identify the people within the institution, which the forensic orders did not identify individuals per se. Then the fifth one was that we should ensure internal controls are watertight and function throughout operating and outside official hours to curb irregular authorization. This was the hack that we had. So we can report that we appointed a forensic cybersecurity specialist to look at how this happened in Treasury. We should have this report by the end of this month. But we've also looked at CETA and asked CETA to help us. They eventually said that it's not from their purview that anyone in their organization committed this irregularity or this access. But we've now got independent cybersecurity specialists that are doing quite a thorough review, and they have found the method used to intrude our systems. But we'll wait for the final report and see if they've then identified who exactly and how we can take that forward. But in the meantime, Chair, we have strengthened our financial controls around access to the systems, where we also revoke our user passwords during our closure periods, like we did last December, and we will do it again. So the system is closed down, and no one can then access the system as we are not in office. But we've also implemented additional controls in the office to prevent any irregular access and any payment being processed without our knowledge while we're there. So at the moment, and that's why we appointed the forensic or the independent forensic team chair. We really needed to understand how this happened, as we wouldn't be able to improve our controls if we don't know what has happened. But I think they've already sourced the root cause, and we'll just have to see. And it's not only in Limpopo, it's nationally that these people have been working into our systems. Then on 24-25, the first quarter report, the first resolution was to appoint the new staff members to strengthen the department in efforts to improve service delivery. Again, Chair, yeah, we had 74 posts that were on our recruitment plan. 71 of those were filled, 2 posts were re-advertised, and 1 post was recommended for headhunting. We must report also that we've now got a new job evaluation system that DPSA has put in place, and we have to train our officials to use that system. So you cannot advertise now as of, I think it's 1 June, without having your post re-evaluated on the new job evaluation system. And that certainly has caused delays, but we're dealing with that as best we can to deal with our recruitment processes going forward. We do find also that some of our challenges where suitable candidates meeting the entry requirements could not be identified for one of the posts, and while the 2 posts were impacted by disputes, and we have looked at now headhunting for the 1 post, and the disputes have been resolved. Then to design a program to empower municipalities around internal capacity to develop their financial statements. Chair, we've certainly worked hard with our municipalities as we went through this particular period up to August, where they submitted their financials. We can report that all our municipalities submitted their financials on time. What we've now picked up, Chair, is that they're not necessarily appointing them to prepare their financials, but to do reviews on their financials. So they've just taken it a step forward, and we're looking at that now also to see why we don't have that capacity within the state with our internal audit units. We as Treasury review the financials, and maybe it's our skills gap that we need to close as Treasury also, and we have met with the AGSA to also help us identify what they perceive to be the root cause so that we can do away with this. We have got a report now where we've broken down all the consultancy fees, and that's how we've identified now that it's not all preparation, but also for the quality check or the review before they give to AG. And one area that our department, our municipalities are spending quite a substantial amount is on assets, and that's where you need specialists to value the assets, those underground. You need specialist skills to be able to do that. And not all our municipalities have that skill, and even those technical directors in place. So they are spending substantial amounts there. And I think AG has acknowledged that you won't necessarily have all those skills in all our municipalities, noting the rural nature of some of our municipalities, but it's something that we need to manage down and try and get that capacity within the state, and we're certainly going to look at that. So we do have various sessions, and we have done our review, and we'll certainly see the outcome in November as those financials are then finalized for audit or presented, the reports presented. The next issue, I think MEC touched on it, was around the committee just wanted to make sure that we don't exceed the 45% expenditure limit on the Section 29 of the PFMA, where it allows us to spend up to 45% in the first 4 months, and we can confirm that we were well below that. We're around 23.8% in June, and we're also below the 45% once the national budget was approved. So we're pretty comfortable that we complied there, and the committee can take that assurance. Then the issue around GAL being a strategic asset aimed at generating economic spin-offs for the province. And to this end, quarterly status reports be submitted on progress recorded at GAL. I think it's GAL and LIDA, and we're certainly working on them now, but you can see from our progress that of the 97 odd million that we've made available for them to implement their turnaround strategy, only 18.2% or 17 million has been spent. And it really comes to supply chain management delays within GAL, and we're trying to assist there also. And then our intervention is to, for the entity to appoint committees to address the SCM challenges and work even after hours to finalize the SCM process and appoint the service providers. Currently, service providers for 12 of the projects have been appointed, and the entity is finalizing the other 5 projects, service providers. Chair, I think we'll need to come back to the committee also, and I think there will be a joint committee between us, your committee and economic development around LEADER and GAL to look at the progress, but for both, we still see challenges, and while there's some light at the end of the tunnel, it's not where we would have liked to have seen them where we are now. Then the next one was on the Limpopo Appropriation Bill. Sorry, I started in the previous page. The issue here was around the transport network, economic development, and to this end, statements on leasing of the fleet of buses by G&T be submitted to the committee. Furthermore, a loan facility from LEADER to G&T to service its subsidiary accounts be submitted to the committee. Chair, we will submit this. They've reworked their financial model. It's just been shared with us. We've got a meeting on next week, Wednesday, with both LEADER and GAL, which will include G&T. It's also to clearly understand the rental option that they've put in and how that's going to work with the Department of Transport. They have requested to repurpose 90-odd million of the money that we've given to them for procuring buses to deal with some of the operational expenses. But we have advised that will need legislature approval, as it's the legislature that pronounced that this money was there for buses and not for anything else, and we couldn't give them that approval. So LEADER is, can I say, floating them for now until the legislature takes a decision on that, and we'll certainly come back with the revised model, which we'll assess hopefully on Wednesday or next week, and then come back to the committee as we need to on the 3D entities, not just G&T, to include GAL and LEADER and the G&T in that report. Then the 4th item, or the last item, was on the economic development, environment, tourism, to be called as a matter of urgency to address challenges faced by SOEs. And I think that's the committee meeting that I'm talking about, that I think this meeting needs to be called. I know there was one called, but it's been then postponed. Really just to brief both committees where we are with those 3D entities and the way forward with those. Then Resolution 5 was around to monitor progress on the implementation by agents and take appropriate actions if they encounter stagnation or lack of progress. We do monitor our implementing agents, Chair. We've actually just done a review of their capacity as Public Works and Treasury, and we've identified that some of our implementing agents don't have the necessary capacity within their own organization to actually deliver on our projects. Some don't have quantity surveyors, some don't have engineers. So we've also had a meeting with the Executive Council to look at this. But as we speak now, we then do monitor the progress on these implementing agents. And what we're trying to do is move projects at pre-construction stage into construction stage to make sure that we have service delivery at the end of the financial year. But again, it's a work in progress, and we'll certainly report back to the committee. So I think those are the resolutions for both. I'm not sure if you'd want me to move or you want to deal with the resolutions.
Just continue on 6.3 on the 2025-26.
No, thanks, Chair. I'll try and be brief here. I think MEC also touched on it. I won't go into the introduction. I think the members are very well averse of what the APP is about and how we need to report on that and our responsibilities. I think just again, we have flagged there the audit outcomes for the whole province for a 5-year period. And as you'll see, the only regression this year was unfortunately legislature, which is a technical issue, and we'll certainly, I'm sure that will be reversed and the clean audit will be regained. But that's just to say in terms of our performance, I think we've done pretty well. Then in terms of Provincial Treasury, we had set 25 targets and we achieved all 25 targets as audited by AG, so we achieved 100% of our targets in that financial year. The next page is just a graphical representation, which I won't go into. But we have overachieved in certain areas, Chair. The first one was on the procurement spend on women-owned enterprises. Chair, and yeah, we just need to be clear that it's difficult for us as Treasury to, can I say, direct money to particular designated groups. And what we've done in the province is also to now report on what we call a discretionary budget. You know, if you look at Treasury's budget, a lot of our money goes to AG, CITA, and a lot of that money is predetermined. It's Gauteng-based. It's maybe not a BE company. They're government-owned entities. But where we can influence the spend is what we've termed discretionary budget, and we measure that against what actually then is our outcome. And you'll see for women, we've actually achieved a 90% procurement from black women in the Treasury, and that exceeded our 40% target as required by our state president. So I think it's difficult, but what we'll do now, and we've agreed that we will report in terms of the national numbers, but also look at our discretionary spend. So if you looked at our numbers without looking at discretionary, we're just on the 40%. In fact, I think we're just under. And we feel that that needs to be made known in that the 90% could be an estimation. But that's what we can control and allocate to designated groups. The other money, we don't have that same control. The second area where we overachieved was the number of budgets tabled, and I'm sure the committee is very aware that we had to table 3 budgets in that financial year, where our target is to table the 2, the original budget and the adjustment budget, but we had to then do an additional budget and report accordingly to the AG. Then on our financial governance, where we do training, we've overachieved there also. We conducted a total of 104 courses, which exceeded our target of 72 by 32 additional courses, and these are largely driven by the need for our systems training on BAS and LOGOS and literacy courses that link to that, and that has then also as a result, the target has been increased now to 80 courses for 25-26 APP. Then the last indicator was the number of financial statements assessed, conducted in votes, and we conducted 57 AFS assessments, exceeding the target of 54. The extra assessments were conducted in public entities in the first and the third quarters. And then internal audit, in terms of the percentage of audits projects finalized and communicated, we actually did an extra one, I think, where we achieved 107% of the target, exceeding the 100% target due to the completion of 7 additional information system audits. So then just going to the actual annual report, I think MEC touched on it in terms of our revenue as Treasury. We did do well. We over-collected by 122 million. But I think as the Honourable MEC said, that's not our focus. It's not for us to collect interest. It's about making sure our departments spend the money. But if the money is not spent, I think as Treasury we've been quite prudent and noting that we're managing the pay runs quite successfully since Section 100. And you'll see in the previous year we actually collected more interest, but as the interest rates were then cut, obviously that impacted on our comparative figure from last year. but it still helps us through budget pressures that may then be there come adjustment. On our program expenditure, Chair, again, as a department, we underspent by 9.3 million, which was just under 2%. The largest being in program 1 of 7.3 million. And this is also linked to our SITA invoices, which are delayed by SITA, and also on financial governance, you'll see a 1.3 million underspend is linked to some of the forensic audits that were not yet completed at year end, and that obviously that money was not paid out but was budgeted for. Then looking at economic classification, Chair, I think we've done well on our CRE. We underspent by just 300,000. Goods and services, 8.8 million, and that's linked to the same two items I just spoke to, the forensics and the SITA IT services. And we are trying to work with SITA to get us invoices timely, but it's still a challenge for us, Chair. So those are the two areas where we didn't do well. But if you look at the other items, we've basically spent all the money as budgeted for. The next 2 or 3 pages really just talks to those numbers, Chair, which I think I've tried to speak to, but there are explanations there. Then if you can just move to some human resource and compliance issues. Chair, we can report that we've achieved 100% compliance with our annual submission of financial disclosures for 24-25, so we're very proud of that, where we are monitored by DPSA, and we've submitted all those financial disclosures and also been reviewed by our ethics champion and obviously MEC. If there are any conflicts or possible conflicts, MEC has dealt with those. The department has appointed independent audit committees tasked with overseeing performance of the risk management committee and the overall effectiveness of enterprise risk management. And we've also appointed independent risk chairpersons to look after our risk management, and they meet quarterly to look at those particular areas of risk, and the audit committee to look at risk performance and our financial position. In 24-25, we also remain steadfast in upholding the values and principles outlined in the Code of Conduct prescribed by DPSA. And as at end of March, we recorded the vacancy of 7.6%, as I reported earlier, where we've certainly seen improvement around that. Then in terms of the ethical governance, we've also reinforced that with a fully operational ethics committee, and the committee plays a critical role in addressing ethics-related matters, identifying and monitoring potential ethical risks, and supporting the integration of ethical considerations into operational practices. This committee convenes quarterly or as needed to ensure continuous oversight and the culture of integrity. Then our workforce demographics, we've certainly done well when we look at our equity plan, Chair. Across all salary levels, female employees make up 221 of our total staff complement, representing 54.83%, while male employees count for 182, which is 45.16%. However, at the senior management level, the department has a total of 54 members, or let me say head. Of these, 26 are female, which translates to only 48.14%, and 28 are male. So it is a very fluctuating achievement. We achieve, then we lose it as one person leaves. But we're certainly trying to achieve that 50-50 parity within our SMS level. When it comes to disability, we've achieved it at a departmental level at 3.22%, but again at SMS level, we're around 1.8% around disability. Chair, I think that's where I can really talk to that. In terms of our first quarter, our performance report, again, in this quarter we underachieved on 3 targets, 1 in program 1 and 2 in internal audit services. The rest of us achieved, and in fact some overachieved. And if I can just talk to the reasons, the graphs are there, which I won't speak to. In program 1, we had one invoice that was not paid on time due to the unavailability of BAS and Logos system during April as a result of the migration from BAS version 5 to 6. This was a national challenge, Chair, where some of the bank accounts were not integrating into the new version 6, and there were challenges around the Logos and the BAS system, which needed to be dealt with. And it did take more than a month to get that normalized nationally, but I think as we speak now, that's been sorted out. So BAS was upgraded, and we had the one invoice that unfortunately we could not pay on time. In program 5, our shared internal audit services, we had planned for 2 targets that were not planned. 2 planned targets were not achieved. 2% of the audits not finalized as planned due to the following reasons. CS experienced a teammate crash, and therefore the team was unable to finalize the project. Chair, just to give some background, we have just procured this building, and part of the procurement process was to put in a generator. We didn't have one previously. But that generator didn't kick in correctly, and our system then failed. And our internal audit software then had to be reconstructed from our data that we had, and that certainly took time from the teams, and that resulted in 2 audits, or 2% of the audits not being done, unfortunately. But I think as we speak now, we've managed to reconstruct the teammate software, and the team is back on track. Then the next target was the combined assurance report that was meant to be presented to the audit committee, but this is scheduled for the 2nd quarter in August, and as we speak now, that has happened, but at the 1st quarter, that was a non-achievement. Then some overachievement is again the procurement from women-owned companies, as I explained, where we will now look at the reporting on total spend, not just on our discretionary spend, and we've changed that into our new APP that's going for approval now, but as it is now, it's still on the discretionary spend. Then in public budget and public finance, again, the 3 budgets that we tabled, the one extra due to the retabling of the budgets that we had to facilitate. Then in financial governance, again on training, transversal system courses, we conducted 25 training courses instead of the 18. There were 7 additional due to the additional requests for, again, BAS general principles on budget, as well as Logos literacy courses. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt, for a long and short presentation on the reports. And I would like to check with the honorable members to engage with the presentation. As presented before us, you will be the first one, Honorable Kupa, Mabuza. The second one will be Honorable Mugaba. And you'll be the third one. Will be the 4th, and the lastly will be Honorable Mato, Chair. In that order, Honorable Kupa.
Thank you very much, Chair. Firstly, let me congratulate the MEC and the entire administration on the achievement of the audit outcome. My first question was, what led to the budget over expenditure on program 3, and what measures are in place to guard against such in future? And I think honorable members will want to also to be clarified on what led to the budget under expenditure in program 5 in 2024-25 financial year. And further to that, what measures has Treasurer put in place to ensure a relationship between both financial and non-financial performance. Thank you.
Thank you. That order on Honorable Smiley. Ms. Joseph. Okay.
No, thank you very much, and good morning to the MEC and his entourage. And let me also appreciate the presentations from the MEC and Treasurer. I mean the HO and the HOD. I'm sorry for that. I have lots of questions here, Honorable Chair and Honorable MEC. And some of the questions that I'm going to ask is starting from back in 2020, because it's according to the entire Limpopo. Maybe starting with your budget execution and absorption. On your budget execution and absorption, on how much of conditional grant funds and earmarked programs, for example, the municipal capacity building, your infrastructure capacity building, have been used vis-a-vis what was allocated? And again, on your municipal support and oversight, just to check with the MEC, how effective has the support to municipalities been, and which municipalities still show financial management weaknesses, and what corrective intervention are being implemented? And how is compliance with MFMA and municipal budgeting being ensured and monitored with consequence for non-compliance? I'm not fast again. Okay. Recently, the Auditor General of South Africa has released the latest audit outcome for the Limpopo provincial government. And for the first time in many years, the province has recorded a remarkable improvement that has also quoted by Honorable Solani. He has just issued an article that he was appreciating the good work that this government is doing, that they have achieved clean audit opinion with no findings, but not all the departments and entities. Are there any plans in place to retain the remarkable improvement? And if yes, what are those plans? Because some departments continue to struggle with reporting performance information, means of verification are not quality assured, submission delayed, and misunderstanding of what the Auditor General require. Also on your audit finding follow-up, on the specific departments or entities where it had emphasis on matters findings, what corrective action plans have been implemented? How does the Treasurer monitor implementation of Auditor General recommendations? On your budget under or overspending, for the departments that has underspent their budget in 2024-2025, maybe if the MEC can empower, or the HOD can empower the committee on how much did they underspend their budget and what are their reasons. And then maybe also to empower the committee on what plans are in place to ensure quarter 1, quarter 4 and quarter 4 spending is on track for the 2025-2026. And your performance reporting quality. Are the performance reports submitted to AG free of material misstatements? How means of verification being strengthened? And what capacity building is being done for departments, municipalities that struggle with supporting requirements? And which department or entities incurred the most irregular expenditure and how much is it? Do you have officials that were held accountable? Or maybe if you can just empower the committee on what steps have been taken to improve, also to improve the supply chain compliance. It's a lot. I'll just pause where I'm pausing because and you are on the oversight, municipal oversight. What is the treasurer's role and action when municipalities have qualified or adverse audit? And how does the treasurer monitor municipal financial health and service delivery? Are there support and intervention programs for underperforming municipalities? Going to your capital project and infrastructure. What delays are affecting capital spending in the 2025-2026 Q1, especially in road, water, and etc.? And how will those project delays be addressed to avoid rollover or unspent conditional grants? Going to your revenue collection and own income. Which sources of own revenue are growing and which are lacking? Also, if you can empower this committee on what measures are in place to improve revenue collection, rates, fees, and etc. Going to your full annual legal cost disclosure. MEC, if you can just empower us on what is the total amount Limpopo government spend per year on all legal cases, internal and external, across all departments, health, roads, and so on. And how much of that is legal fees vis-a-vis settlement, vis-a-vis court judgment, vis-a-vis interest and others? And on your contingent liability vis-a-vis actual payments, how much is claimed each year contingent liability vis-a-vis what is paid out, is paid off? And also, which are the major cases, which major cases are still outstanding, and what is their likely cost? Going to the trend data, over the past 5 years, how was spending and number of legal claims, medical legal cases changed? And which district or hospitals show the worst trend? Why I'm saying this, there's a report of Medico that says medical legal claims in Limpopo Health from 2020, January to December 2023. The Limpopo Department of Health paid out 266.8 million in medical legal claims, which are 30 claims, and spent 63.1 million on legal costs. And over that same period, 903 medical legal claims filed, and the contingent liabilities amount claimed against the department, whether or not finalized, are much higher, more than 10 billion from 1,440 cases. And when I'm breaking down the district and hospitals, Vempe district, 500 cases amounting to 5.251 billion. Capricorn, 330 claims amounting to 2.356 billion. Mopani, 322 claims amounting to 2.683 billion. Sikukuni, 305 claims amounting to 3.006 billion. Waterbeck, 118 claims amounting to 766.053 millions. I can go on with the report, but I just want to pause there and continue with the rest. And on your cause containment prevention, what strategies has the Limpopo Health Department and others introduced or reduced medical legal claims? For example, quality improvement, staffing, training, better patient consent, and so on. And also, if you can tell us on what is the role of mediation vis-a-vis court proceedings. How much is spent on insurance or risk management to mitigate future claims? And on your budget impact, how much of the budget allocated for service delivery is being shifted to cover legal cost or settlement? Are there cases where legal cost or win-loses meaningfully affect the ability to deliver critical services? And also on transparency, are citizens or oversight bodies able to access details, breakdowns? I think I'll pause here for now. Thank you. Is it you?
That's hold on, Honorable Smile. You know, next time, don't ever pick up the date of the 10th of.
And it's my birthday.
No, that's where I'm going now. That's where I'm going. She's so happy that she took everything. Thank you very much, Honorable Mukava. Let's move on. Honorable Smiley, I think she took all the scope, but there's nothing wrong to emphasize.
No, I think Treasury are capable of taking note of the first questions asked by other members. I'm not going to rewash them. Just with reference to ROPS and the 52.4 million rand and the deregistration or the attempt of the deregistration of CIPC, I do think that there's a an attempt by certain officials to do business wrongfully so. And then there are people that rightfully said HOD that falls into the grey area. But one of those issues that has Treasury considered blacklisting those companies with with government, taking into account that those people might still be an employee of government, and therefore you might not be able to fire them, but then actually asking this very, very strong question around that. The provincial risk profile that is being monitored, and a lot of issues that I've heard on my right speaks to that risk. Are you able to put a report together to Treasury outlining some of the actual risks that is out there, that speaks to maybe some of the weaknesses that we are finding within the supply chain or within the accountability space, or even the evaluating of it. You did make mention of the skill shortages of various government departments, possibly our implementing agents that are not being able to do what they're supposed to be doing. But I'm more interested in knowing what they are, and are we then putting the measures in order to turn them around. It's easy just to talk about the heading, but not actually knowing that we are actually dealing with those key issues without going into too much detail with them. The 247 million rand irregular expenditure that was not being dealt with. I think we are at this stage, the reason why is it not being dealt with? And then what have you done as Treasury to put those people or those entities or those departments on terms with those reference? And it also goes further towards when departments are asking for condonement. It's interesting, it's interesting to get a sort of a feel when people ask for condonement, but then it's maybe declined by Treasury, rightfully so, because they haven't followed the 7 steps. I don't want to go through the 7 steps. But it talks towards that risk within the government not being able to go through all 7 steps, you understand, asking you for condonement, but they know that they've only done the first 4, they haven't done 5, 6, 7. And I'm trying to get the feel of where the weakness is in government, because we're not clearing the books, but every time we sit on other committees, we hear, now we've sent to Treasury for condonement, but just to know 30 days later the condonement has been returned. And for me, it is a CFO and a HOD should know that that report should not even go to Treasury in the first place, because they have not met that criteria. And we would like to get the feel to see, is there a skills gap? Is there a training gap that needs to be done? Are we giving that training on that level to say, here it is? And if people continues to not meet those requirements, for me it's a capacity problem, and one has got to start dealing with that capacity problem. A little bit more on, and I appreciate the reworked financial models on G&T and LEADER. But what is concerning is, about 2 weeks ago, the AG appeared before the economic portfolio, LEDET, and make a very strong accusation about G&T lease agreement. And I'm going to quote verbatim. I'm going to quote. It says, "We have tested the bid and it was declared irregular. The award was irregular due to the following reasons. Bids were not evaluated strictly in compliance with the specification per tender. Thus, the evaluation of the criteria was not transparent and consistent with the specifications issued to the market of bidders were awarded for more buses than one. Even three winning bidders submitted similar documents which were prepared by the winning bidders. And even a bid was awarded where a person did not have the necessary tax compliance within that. Buses were delivered well over the age mark of how old a bus could be. I mean, even yesterday I was driving and I found in Makado 3 G&T buses standing next to the road with passengers trying to get home, broken down. So your financial model, needs to speak to that. Treasury, when you came to us in the beginning of, I think it was January, February, and I brought up the issue about the reason why the exorbitant kilometer fee per bus is because it's a short-term period. It is no longer a short-term period. It now goes automatically into a long-term period. And therefore, there's a much harder, deeper look into how it got there, why we got there, and what was the attempt around these lease agreements into it. And maybe the revoking of some of these lease agreements based on some sort of a transparent investigation or a deep look by yourselves within this. Because we are going to pay between 26 Rand and 29 Rand for up to a period of 5 years. And I'm asking that. And when you look at the financial model, the kilometer, when you bring that into space, you bring into the maintenance that are currently happening on service providers' buses, including G&T, because we have never been produced a full analysis on bus maintenance and operating expenditure. And I can understand why they now want to take 98 million Rand. And this is the 100 million Rand that I spoke on the previous Treasury meeting to say, what happened to the previous financials year, 100 million? And now, here's the question that it wants to go to operational expenditure. And I get the feel that when people over a period of 6 months gives different aspects of information, then there's a much deeper lie into it. And we've had turnaround strategy plans of Great North Transport over the last 3, 4 years, 5 years. Now I'm asking myself, what would the previous turnaround strategy plans make so much, or what would this one make so much stronger than the previous one? And I don't want to go into the numbers, MEC, because I think there's another platform for it. But are we going to see a bigger oversight role from Treasury onto entities, especially when it comes to bailouts? Because it's not just G&T that's being bailed out. GOL is being bailed out, other entities. Now, let's talk about when we start bailing out entities. Have you got a unit within Treasury that you then allocate towards the scrutiny of, let's say, the quarterly reports? Because it gets back to about the monitoring of municipalities. The whole VBS saga, in my view, because you've got a report on a quarterly and a monthly basis on your financial investments and where it should go, people should have reported where that money lies. And then it should have been picked up much, much earlier. And you would have maybe not picked it up in the first year, but you surely would have picked it up maybe in the second year, or let's call it in the next. But the whole VBS saga was over a period of a good 5-year financial span. And then it talks to, then the question asks, yes, we monitor local municipalities. Yes, we monitor state entities and government departments as Treasury so. But how do we analyze those reports? In that, the testing of the information. Is there some sort of testing by Treasury, or are you hoping that your newly formed organogram will hopefully speak to that? Because HOD, MEC, I don't want to find ourselves in the same space in the very near future because of that capacity. Because I'm one of those persons that feel that the organogram of the staff organogram simply is not efficient enough for what we're asking Treasury to do. Because we're asking Treasury to do all the, making sure that all the entities and government departments and municipalities must get clean audits. But then I'm asking myself, who in Treasury is going to do it? If you've got 5 people in that department or 10 people, you can't do 60 entities or 60 financial reports and get it over the line. Then we've got to say, okay, if that becomes the primary focus, then we've got to get back to the drawing board and say, how do you strengthen Treasury? And that's where I want to go with this debate at the end of the day, because if that is the aim, and we as on this side of the table needs to start speaking in the legislature, advocating for a bigger pull towards the administrator, the COE side of Treasury, then we've got to start doing it, MEC. And that is, I'm rather want to focus on the solutions to what the bigger problem or the risk profile that we've got. And maybe that risk profile speaks to some of the issues that we are doing. So, Chairperson, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
You're welcome, Honorable Machuman.
Because Honorable Smiley just reminded me with something. Because the report here, AG, it has also revealed that I think something says wrong, whereby people that have been suspended from economic development, those are the wrong people. Because the report of the AG is talking about the previous financial, of which is these people. And already, hearing have started where they are spending money. So how are you going to solve this thing? Because we sometimes reba hard on other people, but it's true. You know, as politicians, as the political head, you must sometimes check whatever or scrutinize the report that are from the officials, because sometimes they give things that are not there. Then you sign, you approve, then at the end of the day, then you find that the report that you have signed is wrong. Then what do you do? Because at the end of the day, everything comes to your head. It doesn't go to any official, because when you talk of people abusing money and all these things, we don't have buses, service delivery, then we focus on the political head. So this is a problem that already there's money that these people are spending on hearing. Because at the end of the day, they will win the case, they will sue government with the money that we don't have. So I think such things need to be stopped, because it's a lot of matata going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Mine is to join the members, the honorable members, by applauding the Provincial Treasury for obtaining an unqualified audit outcome without emphasis as per AG audit outcome. Honorable Mkabai has said a mouthful, has given all the birthday girl. I need not to repeat what she had said, but I want to speak on the issue of human resource aspect. In terms of disability representation at the senior management, You indicated that you have got only 1.6%, if my memory serves me well, on disability. Now I want to check, how are you going to close the gap, making sure that we reach the norm that is expected by national of the 3%? Thank you. Chair.
Okay. Honorable Mato, your turn.
Thank you very much, Chair, and further greetings to the Honorable MEC and the entourage from the department. As we have done it on our behalf, happy birthday to the birthday girl. I don't know whether to say girl because to me she's a sister. But as is usually said, let's say girl is fine. Chair, I think Memkawa and also and also other colleagues have put some questions that most of them could have put, but there are intriguing questions that I think the department should speak to. One, as we welcome the clean, I don't know whether, Brad, there is something called clean audit, unqualified audit without matters of FSS. Because I want to use the correct terminology. That we appreciate the good work that Treasury has been doing, even making sure that other departments are elevated to a clean audit. I'm speaking from a point that I'm also going to be very cautious because ourselves as legislature we have regressed. That when I speak and holding the department accountable, I must be careful that also they'll point a finger at me and say, even yourself you have regressed. But we'll request oversight through you, Chair, to make sure that we hold the executive accountable, and Fambula will be agreeing because people will hide with Fambula, and we know what Fambula is talking about. There was an issue in relation to your 20 resolutions that SCOPA presented that you didn't resolve as Treasury, accumulatively so. It's a worrying factor because those 20 resolutions, if they are not solved, one will also question the credibility of our unqualified audit opinion without matters of emphasis. Even if we are clarifying some of the issues, it should be us who are leading by example to make sure that we answer to responses to questions as raised by SCOPA. Therefore, those questions in terms of SCOPA resolution, we should adhere and make sure that we respond to them adequately. I've seen some, Pratt also tried to clear some of them, but they are still outstanding that we need, we think as Treasury, we should be able to lead by example and make sure that we deal with them to their finality. Where they need condonement, where issues, because it's just like one department. There is one department that, I don't know whether it's sport or what, the previous administration, had an issue that was 5 or 10 years old, that still waiting for condonement. And you continuously in departments. It's just like ourselves here as Treasury. If there are issues that needs condonement and we think they are not within your ambit, they should be proper processes should be followed and we deal with them. They shouldn't become an impediment on each and every financial year that this resolution of scope is still outstanding. Whereas it's not within your competence and it's not your fault. It might be on non-performance, on non-financial performance. If it's on that, you will clarify to us. Your organogram speaks of 537 employees and it has been reviewed lately, but the last review was done in 2018, 2019. And you continuously have leader in those all entities and also the departments for you to give that helping hand, including municipalities. How possible is these colleagues in Treasury to stretch themselves to that level? If you are not reviewing your organogram, I'm told it has been reviewed, You are just, through consultation has been done, but I will subject that to the chair that if it has been reviewed, you will be copied with that copy so that we are able to be sure as a committee. Because for me, it can be, there is that team that we have established in the province where you, what do you call it, Prat, where you approve, because usually people, they say it's the treasury, it's not treasury. That team that also discuss about when department wants to advertise, you go there and, yeah. Usually departments, they always blame treasury, and it's not treasury, it's that team that has been established in terms of the resolution of the cabinet, that these are the posts that should be advertised. And it can be that the same people at treasury, we make them to work extraordinary hours, but we don't capacitate them by giving them more employees within the sections where they are, for them to do their work to the utmost best in terms of their capabilities. These things of lead, of Gal, what, if we had enough capacity in treasury, they were not going to happen. Or they are sometimes happening because people are afraid of the executive authorities or people who are there who take decisions which are wrong, and after that we start chasing after board members. It can be. Immediately when this thing is pinned by treasury, we must, like the one that Memka was talking about here, we must pin it down there and then so that we don't cost unnecessary expenditure to the government of Limpopo. Out of those 537 posts, I want to know how many have you able to fill, and how many do you think they still need yourself to deal with, because your vacancy rate is at 7.6, even though it's below the national norm at 10%, you are still doing good, but for you to do the best and utmost best, and also go into municipalities, it will need you to staff more in terms of our organogram. Number two, I'm happy with your SMS composition in terms of those. Are they 55 members or what? I've forgotten. Yeah, but it's 47% in terms of female and 53% in terms of male. But we need to strike a balance, because there is this thing that the cabinet has taken a decision that you should be at par at 50-50, which I think, Ntatimawa, you are doing good, even though you are still lacking on 3%. It might be that if one member of the SMM is taken to another department or resigns, it takes us down a bit. We should be able to, we just want to appreciate the good work that we do. But what measures has Treasury implemented to deal with the gender parity as per cabinet directive? I think you should also clarify that one. The second one is, how is the department advancing the issue of people with disability as raised by Honorable Machumani in terms of your SMMS level? Because we also need them at an SMMS level. We shouldn't, window dress that 2%, 3% issue, because we just say it's 3%, but we don't even include the SMMS level in terms of people with disability. On your revenue projection, I'm very grateful because you continuously collect more revenue. But Dade Prat, you must tell us what barometer you're utilizing to put a scale in terms of your projection for revenue collection. Because if you collect extra 100 million, to me, you are telling me that it's either your barometer, you have lowered it, you have lowered the bar. Because consistently in terms of the 3 years, you have been collecting, you have been surpassing your projection by more than 50 million. Therefore, it shows that that barometer of yours, scale it up a bit. I might think that you are under targeting so that you are seen as if you are doing good in terms of revenue collection. That might be my view, but you must prove me wrong, because 3 years consecutively, it shows you that you are over collecting more than 50 million. Therefore, it shows you that the barometer that you are using, scale it up. take the renewal potential to a higher level now, to say it is here, it's no more here. And let's see if you miss the target, we'll say in the other year, we review, let's take it backward. That is my take. The other issue is on your payment of suppliers. I think you're doing the best of the best, 99%, but it is not your problem that somebody brought wrong invoice and with a wrong working bank statement. That person must be charged for taking the department not to achieve 100%. He must be punished. I don't know whether it's a service provider or what, but we can only punish him or her by not paying him even on time, so that next time he must learn to do things correctly so that you are at 100%. We want to appreciate that you are leading by example in most departments. Small scale, business entities are suffering because they are getting paid very late. And we really appreciate that you are doing it to the best of your ability. I had another question, but I think it has just disappeared. But I will do the Mamkawa thing. If it comes back, I will grab the mic and make sure that I'm interjecting somebody and respond on it. Yeah, I think it was right on the issue of your section 29, but I think you've explained it very well, Tete Platt. There's no need for me to go back to that one. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mato. I think honorable members have raised questions that will need clarity. I'll take it back to your MEC. Before we sing for the birthday lady or the birthday girl, she said, the birthday girl. Let's conclude the business first. MEC?
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members. I must admit and confirm and confess that there was an avalanche of questions, most of which we may request in writing for us to do justice, because these questions are very important. We might not have full answers to them immediately, but they are necessary to be responded to. I may just have to give over to the administration, and then I'll come at the end. HOD.
No, thanks very much, Chair, and through you, MEC. Yeah, I think we're really going to need Honorable Makaba's list. I tried to write as fast as I could, but I don't know if I captured them correctly. So, and I agree, I think a lot of it was around health, and we just need to get those questions, and we'll respond to you in writing, and we'll need to go and get that information. We don't have it. Yeah, no, if we can just get that list, Honourable Chair, then we can just see how some of the information will need to collate from health, but we'll certainly try and meet that time frame.
Can I just hold on there, HOD? I think, Honourable Mkawa, the proposal is that she submit the questions, because you might have not captured them exactly the way she wants. What the request, Honourable Mkawa, is that help them with those questions so that they can respond precisely on how they've been questioned. Is it within 7 days? Or just all? Oh, yeah. Okay, administratively it will be handled by that mean on that case. You were asking about 7 days, MEC? The proposal is that will you be able to respond within 7 days? That's what you're saying?
Chair, I think we might need a bit more time, because a lot of that medical legal, we're going to have to go to health and get that information and source whatever we need. If
14 working days should be fine.
That should be fine. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
You may continue.
No, thanks very much, Chair. I'm just going to try and pick where I can now. I think just on I'm going to talk generally to the support of our municipalities. which has also come up in a few questions. We do have a team that is there. We are now, in our new structure, we are elevating that to a branch. So at the moment, it reports under budget or sustainable resource program 2 as a chief director. In our new structure, we are making it a DDG post, a branch, with 2 chief directors, and you can maybe just help me now, I don't have the detail. But we're trying to strengthen that team to make sure that we have that engagement. When the previous DDG was with us before we went to Public Works, he was doing more MFMA work than he was doing budget work because the budget team was strong and we needed to help our municipalities. But when he moved on, then we had that gap, and we can see that we need to focus on our municipalities. It's very, very clear. But I think with National Treasury also, and AG, I think it's important for us also to share that AG and us are going to work collaboratively without impacting the independence to really look at what are the root causes in our municipalities. We keep getting unfunded budgets. Honourable Smiley asked us about the information. Our first paragraph in our report is we disclaim that report because the quality of the information is not there. So you can see one municipality, for example, doesn't have any other data except public sector. And it's not possible that one of our municipalities, and a big municipality, can't have business and communities. So now we're blaming government for not paying the debt, but you've put a 1.4 billion there against government, which is not government. And those sort of things we pick up as we review, and in our report we submit to the legislature. Our first paragraph is saying, use it at your own peril, but this is the information. And we've only got one source, and that's the National Treasury database, where every municipality submits the information. So if that information is not credible, we draw that information from that system and we then report, which we can't rely on. We've now said to our team, we can't keep saying this every time, that give us your information's not right, your debtors don't work out, your cash flow is not balancing. We got to go and start helping them now and giving that consultancy work rather than the monitoring work that we're doing. So we're trying to change the way that we're going to support, but more hands-on, not doing the work, but really sitting with them and understanding, why is your cash flow not balancing every month? It's in the system, and we can see your MSCOA strings aren't right, and we write to them and we give them reports. But it's like a stuck record. We just keep writing to them that these things aren't right, these things aren't right. And so we want to change the way that we're going to work too. But to do that, we need skilled personnel. And one of our limitations is GRAP. As a Treasury, we don't have sufficient people that really know GRAP. And when we come to entities, IFRS, International Financial, for LEADER, you need a very specialized CA that can sit there, and we're starting to get those skills in now. While I'm there, in our same structure, we've strengthened our public entity support team to a chief director. At the moment, it's a director, and that director has just left us, gone back to Free State. 2 of his deputy directors have also retired, they're gone. So that team is also hamstrung at the moment. So we're trying to elevate that, and we're also looking at seconding our internal control, Mr. Batlele, that was there before, back to that unit to try and strengthen it. And we've just advertised the PAG's post to also try and strengthen. So we're trying to make Treasury stronger, but I agree with Honourable Matlo that maybe we don't have enough numbers. You know, of the 500 odd, we're around 320 warm bodies. So we're nowhere near that structure that we have, but we also find that Program 1, our admin support, carries quite a large component of that 500. And we need to try and move it more to the support functions now. And that's what we're trying to do in this structure. But it comes back to budget. And budget is the limiting factor that we have. And we've put in quite additional budget going into next year, and hopefully that we can then get the structure approved. Otherwise, we wouldn't get the new structure approved. So it's at the final stages where MEC has given some inputs and also to strengthen some of our other internal posts, and then we'll submit it through. So we're really trying to strengthen, and I agree, a lot is expected from Treasury, and sometimes we just don't have, now we must send a CFO to Vembe, then we must send someone to act as an HOD, and that just hamstrings us again. So we got to look at, again, how do we get that pool of expertise that we can go and call on? Do we need an MM? Let's go and find an old MM that's maybe sitting at home and put him in, rather than taking our staff out of their responsibility. So we're working on something like that with Coxton, Office of the Premier, just to have a pool of people that we can call on if there is that sort of emergency that does happen. So I think just in broad, we're certainly working on the structure and trying to strengthen MFMA and strengthen our public entity team, and also the skill sets within those teams to be a bit more structured, rather than just a municipal official that's maybe been looking after budget somewhere. If they need financial, they must have that skill with us. On our performance information also, we as Treasury don't play much role in that. It's now Office of the Premier with DPME. But when you look at AG's report also, we're starting to see a big, Health didn't have one issue on their performance information. And if Health can get it right, we can all get it right. That's a massive operation. And AG couldn't find one thing that's not useful, not reliable, incorrectly reported. So that to us says that it's starting to work. Most of our departments don't. The 5 that got clean audits don't have performance information challenges. And you include Health is 6, and I'm sure you can include Legislature at 7. So we've only got a couple that we need to still work on. Agriculture had a technical issue. We can deal with it. Transport nearly fell out of their clean because of performance. But we managed to convince AG that it was not such a big issue, and they've agreed. So we got to just work on those, but I think now that Office of Premiers playing their role more enforcefully, I think we can get there. And I think DPME is also strengthened to help us understand those issues better, so we'll certainly get on that. I think just generally on AG's action plans or matters of emphasis and what we're doing, we've just come from our Clean Audit Strategy meeting on Monday, where all our CFOs have gone out. We as a Treasury have analysed the AG's management letters, the AG's reports, and we've identified where repeat findings are happening within our institutions. Misstatements are still an issue, and that's something we need to deal with. But it's also, again, the skill sets within our departments. Supply chain is still an issue. So we've identified assets, got a few issues. But we've picked up 2 departments, being Public Works and Education, carrying most of the findings. So in our clean audit strategy that we've developed now, we're going to give much more focused support. Leave Treasury, Treasury's fine, leave Premier. Go and spend time at those 2 big departments and help them and understand why they're getting these misstatements. Understand how they go through the process to prepare their financials. We can't just come at the end of March and say, now we must prepare financials. You're not going to get it right. It must be a process, and once you get there, it's just rolling it forward a month or 2, and we'll get there. So we're trying to, in the past, our clean audit strategy was more a generic, let's train, let's give financial support, let's do 1, 2, 3. And now we say, no, go to education. We must, like we did now, to get them out of qualified. Infrastructure was their problem. And the team spent time there to make sure that the work in progress is properly disclosed, reconciled, and hopefully we can then move forward with that. So we're trying to be more focused intervention in those departments rather than a generic sort of process. So that plan will go to EXCO for approval. I can share with the committee that we're targeting 8 clean audits for next year, and we've listed the departments and they've agreed, and we're targeting 3 entities, and we've listed them also because we think we can get there quite realistically. It's not an unrealistic target that we've set, and we certainly will wait for EXCO. They might escalate that to more than what we think should be there. On the underspending and the reasons, we underspent by just over 1.4 billion. I don't have the figure on the top of my head. Most of that was equitable share. On conditional grants, it was around 130 odd million, of which I think 80 million will be surrendered to National. But allow us to give you a full report on that, Chair, and we can just share with you. We've just received the latest audited templates from our departments, which line up to the financials, so we'll have a better number to give and a more accurate number. Just on the spending for this financial year, we're still concerned for infrastructure spending. We've just come from where we were yesterday on the induction program, and Mr. Benny and the team shared where we are. We as a Treasury are projecting that we'll probably underspend. Departments in the IYM say we'll break even, we'll spend all the money. But realistically, when we sit down and look at it, Public Works has got something like more than 200 tenders that they haven't put out yet. It's not going to happen in 6 months. You're not going to spend all that money in 6 months. So we've got to go back now and try and fast track this and understand exactly what is happening. So the team is working with Mr. Ngubeni from our infrastructure team and his team and the Public Works team, and we've got quite a detailed report per department, per project, where we think we'll end. So we're looking at that very operationally as Treasury, but I think it's key for us to make sure that we spend there. And much the same for conditional grants. I must say conditional grants aren't doing that bad. We have shared the June report with your team, Honourable Chair, and maybe it's something that we need to present at your next meeting. Just formally come and present to, I know you don't have time to read all these things, but just to come and flag what we've seen and where possible risks are with your team, with the members, sorry. On supply chain, also just to share, National Treasury has now put in place an automated supply chain process for quotations. And a lot of our procurement goes through quotations. The tenders aren't necessarily the problem, it's about bid committees. But when you get to quotations, we see a lot of manipulation. So they've now introduced a central owners automated procurement system for quotations, and we're busy implementing that now. So it will still take us a bit of time. We've been trained now to really look at, again, as the new Act comes into place, you'll then be able to be more focused on how you select your people to quote. Or you can say everyone quote, not that you're going to choose Gavin's company every time you put out a catering tender with maybe George's company and Mary's company, but Gavin's always there in the three that come. Now it will be more transparent and open to the public or suppliers out there. So we'll also report back to you, Chair, on that once it's implemented. On the invoice tracking also, while it looks good, we are suspicious that some people are manipulating the system, keeping invoices in the drawers, asking them to change the dates, and then capturing that I only received it today when they actually got it 2 weeks ago or a month ago. The new system now will be automated also. Unfortunately, at the moment, where we want to go is that as the supplier submits it, he submits it in the system, so that there's no one saying, put it in the drawer. It's going to come from the supplier into the system. But National's not quite there yet. It will now still be captured, but at least once it's captured, you won't be able to put it in the drawer. It will then be on record. So again, I think the systems are starting to improve at a national level, and I believe through that we'll also get better reports and more credible reports. Not to say that the figures are wrong, but I think it will just give us comfort that, in fact, that is happening. So supply chain still needs a lot of work. The new Procurement Act, as you know, is there, but the regulations we're still waiting for. And I think the detail is going to be in that regulation. But at the same time, what we're saying to departments, not everything needs a regulation in the Act. Prepare yourself for what the Act has put. Where it says the minister must pass the regulations or publish, hold those back. But get yourself ready for infrastructure procurement, for example. We know that the Act says you must have a separate supply chain team looking after infrastructure procurement. So let's start making sure that that's in place. How it's going to work might come through the regulations, but I think we mustn't wait until then to start appointing engineers, etc., in our procurement teams. I think these are mostly health. If you allow me, Chair, I'm going to skip those. And then Honourable Smalley, on the CRPC, we have in our letters, we tell accounting officers to blacklist those companies, because it's true that even if you have left the state, then you were still acting illegally when you got that tender. So we are proposing that those be blacklisted, not that you then benefit and move out of the state and then still partake on the end. So we'll look at that, and as we said in our report, we're just waiting for that feedback to come, and we'll certainly then monitor whether they have taken that action to blacklist those companies. On the risk profile, I think it will be difficult to share the full risk profile, because it's built from the operational risk to your strategic risk, and then we've got the provincial profile, which has come from the top and the bottom. The provincial profile, we've got 10 risks that we've put in there, which is very sort of at a strategic level. What should keep the Premier awake around unemployment, poverty, the health burden, the water, droughts or disasters, if I can put it like that. So we just got to understand what you need. I think it can be. It's now again on an electronic system called BarnL, where we've got the whole province's risks captured. It's just to then, I'll have to check with them how we can give you what you'd like to see. But as we sit, that's why we appointed independent risk chairpersons in every department. They've got an independent risk chairperson that then meets with the risk committee and the chief risk officer, and they then look at the mitigations. What was your action plans? What have you done? Have you mitigated risk, or are you in the process of mitigating the risk? Or why is nothing happening? Or is there other risks that have come that you've not looked at, or other opportunities that are there? But I think we just need to maybe understand what you'd like to see, and then we can try and facilitate that with you. On the condonement process, as I said, we're trying to change our role as the GMC, the technical team that reports to us and brings us the reports from departments. They now assess the reports before they come to us, to try and make sure that you followed those 7 steps. And a lot of time it's about you've taken action, but you didn't bring us the letter. You didn't show us that, in fact, you've taken action. You said I've put in controls to make sure, but you haven't shown us what are those controls. So Mr. Mpatlele is dealing with that at a very operational level, and we need to understand, for example, RAL, we're not going to, and every time, until those databases are expired, it's going to continuously incur irregular expenditure, because you're still using those suppliers that were appointed irregularly in the system, and we need to then deal with it. And the lost records, to us sitting in the committee, we think it's a simple process. You just got to prove that I can't find these documents. That's all you got to prove to us, and the system will then allow us, or the framework will allow us then to condone it, because you're never going to get it. But prove to us that you've done whatever you can. You've gone to suppliers, you've gone to the actual contractor that's got the contract. Has he not got the tender document? There'll be limitations, but it will give us some sense that the one that got the tender is the correct one, and we can condone. So there is a process to deal with it, but we just find it's almost that we're just submitting it, as you say, it's now with Treasury. The recent one is Coxter, the massive one, which we sent back, because we found within that process there were, in fact, other irregularities for particular people, like not tax compliant. We said that one we don't condone. take action, because you can't say this was just a process and there's no action to be taken here. We then go into detail and we say, but some of these, action can be taken, go back, isolate those out and bring the rest to us to consider. And once you've done those investigations, we'll deal with it. The GNT, I think, as we're saying, we've just received the new model. We haven't had a look at it yet. And I think your concerns are our concerns also. Every time this model just keeps changing. And originally it was to buy buses and put the buses in the 300 million that we then gave them through the legislature, which was 100 million and 200 million this year. Now they're in trouble, they need money to go and pay operationals, but it means they can't buy the 70 or 90 buses, I think, with that money now. So now you're going to end up buying 70 buses, but to close that gap in terms of your model, you now need to go and rent additional buses because you need buses on the road. And they don't have, we now, as you say, some of those rental buses are breaking down. And we're paying money for those buses. But then some of the companies are saying, but you're not paying me. So I've now carried this cost for 2 months. You have not paid me GNT, so I'm not going to fix my buses until I'm taking my buses back. And then you sit back with a problem. So it's got a lot of dynamics that we need to look at within that whole model that they've put together. So I think allow us just to meet next week and understand the 30% contracting issue also. We've got a lot of questions on that. How, in fact, does that work? Does it mean that GNT is going to sit on a whole lot of companies as subsidiaries to GNT? Or is there one, call it the SBV as they call it, that all these other bus companies are going to become? We don't understand it from where we sit in, and we need to understand how is that 30% subcontracting going to work, and how do the members, no one's going to bring the assets into that company. They're just going to be an operational company. My assets are still going to be my assets, but I'll rent it to you. So we need to understand that whole model, and I think we're just pleading, allow us just to try and get a better understanding on exactly the model that they've put together there. I think I've discussed about MFMA and the information. We do have the capacity, but the quality, we got to fix the quality before it goes to the National Treasury database, and that's really where we want to focus on now, rather than keep writing letters. On disability at SMS level, you know, our 1.6% is one person, gives us nearly the 2%. But to get to 3, we probably need 2 people, which us is still a very thin basis. One person leaves you, you've half again. So we've certainly tried through our recruitment process, and we've met with DEF SA, we've met with various institutions through the Office of the Premier to encourage their members to apply. We've actually got a separate register now where all the disabled colleagues are registered separately so that they don't just fall through the crack as the application comes through. But the truth of the matter is we're struggling to find those with the skills we need at the senior management level. At the general level in the department, we're over the 3%, we're 3 point something. There we're doing well, but at SMS we're certainly challenged, and we've got to see how we can push that through. We've tried 1 or 2, we got challenged now, we're going to court with one, because we gave preference to a disabled colleague over the number 1 and 2, we then preferred the 3rd, and we've now also got issues that we have to deal with, and it will probably end, well, it is going to the courts. On the resolutions, I think, Honourable Matlow, a lot of those are the transversal ones with Office of the Premier and ourselves, the 20. I just need to go and check that number. For Treasury, it's really just that litigation, and then the ones that we reported now for 22, 23, and then reporting to the legislature. So for Treasury itself, as the vote 5, there's not really that many. But when we come to transversal, some of those are going to be evergreen until we get every department to be clean. That's your resolution. until we get all our budgets funded in municipalities, it's going to take us time. So it's not that we're not working on it, but it's going to take a process for us to really get those taken off your resolution register. But I think with the Secretariat of Scopa, we've also tried to clean, our litigation matter was appearing from 2014, even before. Every year it was a resolution. But now we've collapsed it to one, because it's the same matter, we're just waiting for update. In the past, they kept every year's resolution as an outstanding resolution, and we're saying, but it's the same thing. And we trust that that'll also clean it up, just to have a realistic picture of where we're standing with, I think, the posts I've spoken to, and the recruitment or the organogram. I'm sure MEC can share it with the chair once we've gone through that process. But we've really tried to strengthen. I think I've spoken to the equity issues. Maybe just the last one on the interest, Chair. It's true. But we as Treasury, when you put that interest into the budget, we allocate it. And if I don't earn that interest, I'm going to be short in the budget. I'm going to put myself or the province into trouble. So we try and be a bit conservative. We're not there to make money on interest. We're there to make sure people are spending their money and control that flow of funds. But what's happening is, as the money comes from national and we're not ready to spend, that money starts earning interest. Ideally, we should be earning maybe 50 million over the year, but you can see all provinces. We actually had a meeting not long ago, and they showed the provincial picture on interest in our provincial treasuries, and it's massive. So it's a problem that we got to deal with, and we agree with you that we're probably underestimating what we will earn. But should people spend, we're going to have a budget shortfall because we would have allocated it to health or to education. So it's something that we'll take advice from the committee. I think we're just sharing why we're a bit more conservative when we come to that figure. Should infrastructure go on a run and we properly plan it, we're not going to earn the interest. And then I've allocated it to health. I would rather adjust it, as we'll do now through this adjustment budget that's coming next month, adjust it back up to get a figure, and if we then exceed, well, then it is. But to start with a figure is difficult for us to project, but certainly your sentiments are correct, that we're probably under budgeting for that figure. We don't want to take credit for over collection. We actually want to get that reduced and get the project spent and service delivery on the ground. Let me see, I'm going to pause there. I don't know if you want to.
Thank you. I believe he covered most of. Is there anyone who wants to respond on something? Because I believe we agreed that those other many questions on the birthday will be addressed beyond the birthday, and then there are most that we need to go to. But suffice to say, we really acknowledge the fact that we may not be appropriately configured as a department to deal with both corporate and transversal responsibilities, and which is why in our recent strategic planning we did factor the fact that we might need to review our structure, reconfigure it, in particular address even this concern of us not having a dedicated person or team dealing with these entity oversight. So that is being provided for. And the other thing that I want to comment on is that generally provinces, national average of own revenue is 3.5%. And we're operating at ours is an operational target of 2%. It should be known, it is known that in our country, the most revenue, the tiers of government that are responsible for, that are given legislative and statutory responsibility to collect revenue is national and local. Provinces, national through SARS, to be precise, and other national levies that we know about. And municipalities are to do it through their cost recovery mechanisms. The little that we could get from, which is our concern and maybe we want to explore with departments responsible, is collection on motor vehicle licenses. I personally have a GP registration because I bought the car when I was still working there, and I need to transfer accordingly. But we don't understand, and we don't want to put a competition that Mpumalanga next to us is collecting better than us. And the other thing, the other elements that are used as revenue sources may not be applicable mostly to us. I don't know, maybe we're a bit backward, like this betting, sport betting, which most provinces benefit from. We don't know what is going on in our society. Maybe we are so religious that we don't believe in those, I don't know. It's matters that, it's not a matter, and it is fair to describe, or perhaps it is under targeting, as the Honorable has said. It looks like that, but on surface it looks like that. But if you look at the broad base, you realize that there's not much enough space for us to do. I would have wished, given the many cars that we have, I don't know why we are not having cars registered in our province, as many as they are. If we check in all the villages and townships and cities, we'll realize that majority are GP, more than ours. So it's beyond control, but probably. But besides, Limpopo and Gauteng are one province, if you look at both factors. So we have taken note of those references, especially to disability targets. It will be our wish. I will still have to sit as management to find better ways, because there's no better excuse to give for failing to meet targets set nationally as norms. It is obliging to us to do. We'll definitely attend to that. I don't want to repeat most, but these matters of GNT and the rest, we need to work together to ask ourselves one day whether the business model that we are doing with this is really not relevant. Is it cost effective? You know? And I don't want to elaborate, but from a finance point of view, and sometimes they say some financial decisions don't make political sense, as political decisions sometimes may not make financial sense. It goes different ways. We may, as from oversight and from us, have to look at it and say, is the business case sufficient? Are we going to be going on and on with this problem without resolving? Where are the root problems, root causes? Each time you speak about it, I take a fright, because I may also have personal views about it, which may be similar or somehow different, but it's a problem we need to acknowledge and make sure that we look out. For fear of contradicting, or rather saying the things that some of them we wanted to respond to, as were the many questions, we still request that we be given an opportunity. And we appreciate, because the number of questions and the issues raised are there to help us to be relevant in our work. More than anything else, it might look like burdensome, but that's the only best way we can improve, where we go interrogate, where we are not having answers, we'll acknowledge and say, here, as Treasury, we may not have answers, as it is loaded mostly on the transversal, but our input is this one. So without wasting any time, we want, as I said, this committee is the first line of insight into your oversight for us to do, to account. And therefore, whatever you say, whatever you remark about, comment, and the questions we raise, always open our eyes. Where else can we learn what we should do or improve ourselves? Because you are better placed, because you are dealing with finance, as we always said, and therefore you are the only authority over us that we can then take cue from. so that as we implement our mandate, we know that we're answering to your questions. With these few words, Honorable Chair and members, we would definitely, within 14 days, respond to those that we may not have had an opportunity to do, but which we may not even capture correctly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MEC, HOD, and obviously with your team. I don't know, honorable members, stand to make follow-ups on the responses. Honorable Mato? Yeah.
All right, yeah. I think there are some of the issues that sparked a little bit of discussion and debate amongst us. I think Honorable Mukawa, on her birthday, she might have pumped a lot, but she have also responded and give us also a lot to can also ask more from them. In our committee, I will propose, Chair, that you allow us to raise so that Ndati Kaiser could be able to note, so that when they respond to everything that Memkaba has raised, they'll also be able to raise some of those particular issues. It is quite interesting. I think as a committee, we've got a wider range of responsibility than just leaving things to portfolio committees of those departments in question. We can push for a meeting with the portfolio committee on transport, because what is happening there in what do you call it? That thing of the bus.
GNT.
Yeah, GNT, it's a problem. Even those buses, some of them, you can doubt whether they were manufactured somewhere here or somewhere, I don't know. But through the assistant and also the national treasury processes of purchasing buses, we can utilize that process, because hey, some of those buses, I just compare it with the one of Bakwaruba. If Bakwaruba bus stop stands here and you put your GNT here, you can see this one of mine, it's not a bus, it's something else. Where do you buy them? Those are the things we'll raise, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mato. Honorable Smiling?
Chairperson, I would appreciate Treasury, after the deliberations on the financial model with GNT, to have an open and frank discussion with us on what they see or what their experience are. I think it's important. With reference to, I want to give an example, and I've got two people's examples here of pension schemes. So the bailout for the pension scheme was for instance to be paid. So you've got an employee contribution and then you've got an employer contribution. I've got two black and white momentum issues where only the employer contribution was paid and not the employee contribution that was paid. So when we look at the financial issues of when they are saying that they're using money for X, we have got to understand that the full X was paid and not just a proportion on it. So if you've got the 500 or 835 employees, I think it's important to understand that. Secondly, I would appreciate if a lease agreement was entered into, and let's say the bus should not be older than 7 years, and client A comes with a bus of 20 years and then start claiming expenditures. It talks to a commitment that was not fairly honored. And if you don't honor an obligation, you don't get time to review the obligation. For me, simply is the tender said specification A, you did not meet specification A. You can't get a second chance to then rewrite or get, otherwise what is a transparent supply chain system? In other words, then it could have been open to all people with old buses and give old buses. So I would appreciate if Treasury would make recommendations around certain issues around that, because at the end of the day, we've got to take the best financial decision on behalf of government. And I think that is what it is. It's not about personal egos out there or about what it is. It's about the financial situation. This is what we need to do here. That political decision can be made elsewhere. We need to make the financial decisions. So I just want us to be able to create that dialogue or that opportunity of dialogue, and it can only come when you have had your session with G&T and you allow us then to have that feedback session with you on and forth. So that was just 2 comments on that, Chairperson. And I mean, the HUD made clarification on the risk profile and what is actually needed. I think similar to the Honourable on my right, that some of those questions needs to maybe get through you back to them. I think we will just reformulate some of those questions so that it gets the appropriate attention going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thanks for more inputs, honourable members. Fortunately enough, I'm just informed next to me here that there will be a scheduled meeting, a joint meeting between the 2 portfolios, Treasury and LIDET, on the 23rd. So which I think will go extensively, particularly on the G&T, I think specifically on that. And then it will get full attention for all of us. But I think Honourable Smiley is correct to say it's also good to be guided on how G&T in particular, business-wise, what is it that we must focus on to get it back on its feet, because the situation that we find ourselves in, even if we are not business people, but some of us sold mushroom shamu. You know, that old woman that you see right at the gate of the school can manage better than what we do. I mean, she knows why she's there. She's saving 2 rands, tomorrow she's saving 250. But in our case, we are having 2 rands, then you have minus 150, which does not give sense. That makes sense with professionals that we have who are supposed to be guiding, but it's not working, Chair. I think we'll handle it that time. Let me also take this opportunity once more to give thanks to all, particularly the MEC as well as the honourable members and our staff. I said when we started MEC that we'll say congratulations to you once more, to yourself and your team on the clean audit. Unfortunately, you are so used to it that for the rest of your, in fact, it's normal. I don't know if it's normal for congratulating a learner to come to school, because that's what the learner must do. So in your case, it's so cultural that clean audit is part of your life. But Honourable Mato asked a question that, you see, this thing of clean audit is even causing havoc in the country. The president was found on the wrong side when addressing the councillors at FNB, when he spoke for the other party having municipalities, having clean audit and all those things. But the question is, the little that I think I've been taught was that they're only unqualified. It seems the dominating factor on the issue of clean audit, we just manufactured that one just to qualify that, how good it is. But in terms of the Public Finance Management Act and including the Municipal Finance Management Act, MEC, subjected to correction, we don't have what we call clean, but it's becoming so popular that it's even dividing the nation. So I think it's the better from now on, particularly on our side, MEC and the honourable members, to call it the way it is, unqualified without findings, and unqualified with some findings, and qualified. If we address it that way, we will not be divided amongst ourselves. Clean sounds to be more white, more too white, something without a spot. And then he says something else. I think the interpretation which becomes a national interpretation, it's not keeping peace amongst ourselves. So I will just, if I'm correct, Honorable Matu asked that one, so that we must address things the way they're supposed to be addressed. And as we correctly said, clean audit to us, it means you cannot hold the purse and then you mess up. You expect others that you piece them. I mean, you are giving them the purse to behave differently. So you are leading by example. It will be wrong not to appreciate that good work that we are doing. And lastly, it will be wrong as well. You know, the birthday is a very painful day to a mother. Always when I think of my birthday, I think of, let me tell you the story about what happened with my birthday, Chair. I took many years not knowing when I was born. But the time I learned when I was born, and I asked my mother, may soul rest well, when I was born, she said it was in the afternoon on Tuesday. And she was coming from the field, from work, hard labor. That was the day when I was born. When I took my phone, it was Tuesday, remember? When I took my phone and rewind, you can rewind. It will tell you what was the day in which you were born. In that year, in that month. That's when I correlated the two. Then I knew that my mother said it was on Tuesday. Fortunately enough, I know, Prudence, that it was in the afternoon when she was coming from work. And the documents I got were saying it was on the 7th of March that year. So when I brought the two together, I said, oh, that was the day my mother was crying. Yo. So I will never forget that day. So it's happy birthday to you. Can we say the same to her? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Thank you very much. You know, you're becoming younger. Today is worse. Yeah, you know, if we get people of your younger age, no, let's make it 21. We're giving you a key at least. 21 years old. On our closing remarks, Chair, we're not leaving. We must remain and adopt the minutes. We'll request our Honorable MEC in your team. You know, it is in our culture that after every session at the funerals, I think you'll teach HOD Pride that there is someone who must stand up and tell us where are we going from there. And in this case, Refitar Tapa Matsokai. So, Honorable, I think food will be, am I right? Food will be prepared. It's prepared, ne? Yeah. In the meantime, they may not even wait for us. And now we're just going to a closing session. Thank you very much. The meeting for this one is closed. We'll continue with our meeting. Thank you, MEC. Thank you.